Hey there, everyone. Greetings and welcome back to my cybersecurity show. I'm glad to have you today. We're going to have a little bit of fun because that's what this guy likes to do. Have some fun, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. If it's not fun, what the heck are we doing this for? I mean, I guess there's the whole security thing. I mean, that's important, but right? Fun. That's where it's at. I kid the audience out there. No, it's both important, right? It is important to have fun and important to do this. Today, we're going to have fun in a way of a race, a good old-fashioned who's faster. Well, I mean, I guess it started off that way, but ultimately, I'm kind of just pitting one tool against another. They both do basically the exact same thing, and I thought to myself, which one do I like better? Which one do I think cuts the mustard, does it for this guy right here? And I'm going to pick Gobuster versus Feroxbuster. If you haven't played around with those, both of those things are a web directory fuzzing tool or busting tool, as it were, hence the name Buster. There have been plenty of them in the past, and some of them still exist, and you can still use different ones. These are by no means the only two directory fuzzers that you can use. There's Fuff and Durbuster and Durb, and you can use burpsuite to do this, but a lot of times I found myself just running straight to Gobuster, and I do like Feroxbuster. I have used it in the past, but I thought to myself, that's what kind of brought this up. I thought, well, which one do I think is better? Which one for myself would I want to use? Or maybe there's a use case for one and maybe not the other. I just wanted to do a little testing to see how that goes. That's what today is all about. With that said, let's jump into this thing, shall we? And here you're looking at my Parrot machine here. This is a virtual machine I have running Parrot. And I'm going to use Docker to spin up the web application which we are going to fuzz for directories for. And I'm just using Docker to do that. You can see that's running on port 3000. And as you can see also, well, it's the illustrious, good old-fashioned JuiceShop. JuiceShop's great. So you just go do a Docker pull for that joker right there, and then you can run along with me and play along. And JuiceShop's a lot of fun, help you learn a thing or two about web application security testing, because we want to use things that we have the right to test on. You can't just go out there and start testing on things without permission, so don't do that. Don't just spin up a random website and go, testing time. Wrong. So let's get JuiceShop rocking. Now let me set the stage for you while that's spinning up, which it's almost done. There it is. It's ready to rock. Let me set the stage for you. So I wanted to look at a few things. I want to look at speed. How fast do they run? Obviously, because one is written in Gobuster, and then the other, Feroxbuster, is written in Rust. And they both have very strong proponents for both of those languages, and both those languages have their pros and cons. So I thought maybe this will be a little fun thing to get a religious war going on between those two camps, right? Because they don't need enough things to throw, spears at each other about. So I figured, why not do that? So we'll have speed. Also want to look at things like aesthetic. What do I like how it looks? The output, is it suited to me? And obviously, this is a bit subjective. I do want your take on this. So, comment sections down there for you. But obviously, you're not here filming, so I can't bounce ideas and get your thoughts and opinions while I'm shooting this episode right now. So we're going to take a look at what I think is aesthetic, and we're going to take a look at what I think is useful, or, I like the way that runs, or I don't like the way that runs, and that kind of stuff. Okay. So that's what we're going on with. That said, let's get back to it, right? So we've got JuiceShop spun up. I got a lovely terminal here going on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run date at the beginning and end of each run. So ultimately, I ran these 3 times each. So if I ran Gobuster, I'll show you what I did there. So I basically just ran date and then semicolon, and I ran Gobuster and fired off with a -u with HTTP ://localhost on port 3000, right? Because that's what the Docker container is kind of hooked to on my localhost 3000. So if I wanted to go to JuiceShop, I could just open my browser, hit localhost port 3000, bam, I'd be at JuiceShop. All right. And then I kind of ran into the first thing that could be a problem, but ultimately I would just end it with date. Now, Gobuster runs date by default, or it gives you the time it started and the time it completed by default, but Feroxbuster does not do that. That would be something they could probably take a note on. That's a nice thing to kind of see how long my scans took. And don't make me do the math. Just tell me. That Gobuster does not do that. Just tell me how long you stinking ran. Do the math. Put it in the code. I guess I could do that myself, but whatever. These are all open source tools. So, but that's what's going on. So date, the command, even though yes, Gobuster does that by default, and then the date again, and then I can do the math to figure out how long it actually took. I already have those figures on my little notebook here, so we're not going to recreate the science experiment that was this test. I'll just give you those numbers at the end of the episode here, but I'm just going to show you basically the process I went through to get to making sure everything is as nice as possible. These are both default installations now. Get that in mind, that when I run Gobuster here, it was not installed on Parrot. This is a clean Parrot install. It neither had Gobuster nor Feroxbuster. I had to do an install on each, and I'm just kind of running as much of the default as I possibly can. I don't want to tweak unless I absolutely have to make them a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Parallel, right? Congruent, that they are doing basically the same thing. I didn't want one to have a leg up over the other because I was forcing one thing or not forcing the other. Okay? So I'm trying to make this as similar as humanly possible. So let's get back to it. So this is what I did. And of course, the first thing that happens is Gobuster is going to complain about a word list because there's no word list here. So I need to add that -w. Another kind of positive on, I would say that this is a positive. That's in Feroxbuster, it has a built-in word list. Gobuster does not. And you think, well, so what? You got word lists? Yeah, I can, download sec lists or whatever. You can just, on Parrot, you do an apt install sec lists and you're good. You got a bunch of lists. But if I were a newbie, right, if I'd never run either of these tools before, I just kind of want to fire and go and just see what this does. And that I can absolutely easily do that with Feroxbuster. I cannot do that with Gobusters. That was kind of like the first, wish they did that. How hard is it to add a word list to the thing? Whatever, it is what it is. But to me, that was a net positive for Feroxbuster. Ding, right? Check mark on the Ferox. It did have a default word list where Gobuster did not. Okay, so that means I got to add a word list. Now that kind of works out for our experiment here because I'm going to use Derb's small word list for this. So that's in user share word lists Derb. But you can use any word list you like, obviously, if you want to do this, but especially if you download something like sec lists. And I'm going to use small.txt. All right, I'm going to use that for both of them, even though Feroxbuster comes with one. All right, and then, of course, date. And I think that's good. And this does give me, it didn't like this. Oh, because I forgot the dir command. Where's the control A? Don't forget, you have to tell Gobuster to run the directory fuzzing module. Bam. And then I kind of got a little issue here, right? It says the server returns a status code that matches the provided options for non-existent URLs. What's going on here? So ultimately, what is happening is that Gobuster is saying, so I tried to reach out to the target and ask for a URL that I'm fairly certain does not exist to see what happens. And guess what happened? It returned a 200 status code. As we should know, in our old brains, a 200 status code means, okay, it's there. You found it. Way to go, you. But did that? I know that does not exist. You get 200 anyway, because, it's a participation trophy, I guess. No. So Gobuster's like, well, if that's going to be true for everything I test for, then everything is going to come back 200 and not really going to get any great results. So it gives us some ideas of what we could do to try to solve this issue, right? And it tells us right here, to continue, please exclude the status code, the length, or use the wildcard switch. Okay, So I can use wildcard. That's probably not what I want to go to. I don't want to exclude the status code because I want other 200s that would show up. The length is usually a pretty good one to key on because unless you see that all the lengths are the same, I can say, well, the length of what I'm getting for this non-existent 200 status is probably different than, other things. Not necessarily, but it's a good place to start, at least for me. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use that. So to find that out, I will say Gobuster dir -- help, because I think it is, it doesn't have like a -f or -t. There it is. Exclude length. And then you give it the length ints. And if we look back, we see the length here is 1,987 bytes. Cool. All right, let's get at that, right? So let's gonna bring our command back up and we will, I'll just tack it onto the end here, -- exclude length, GNGTH, and then give it 1987, bada bing. I think that is good. So let's fire that off. Oh, goodness gracious. I got to do it probably before all this stuff. There we go. Just kind of go back. A lot of times, some of these tools like them in a certain order. So -- exclude -length, GTH, 1987. Let's see if that works for us here. There we go. And off it goes. So this was the test I ran. We can see that it is running. And that does kind of give us some other stuff that we'll look at. Remember, I talked about aesthetic. And let me run Feroxbuster real quick and show you how I worked with that. Now, that's going to take us to another thing, but we'll get to that. I'm going to put some switches in and we'll come back to it. How about that? So I will do the same thing. Date, again, I don't want it to do anything that the other isn't doing. And even though this doesn't need it, Feroxbuster did. So Feroxbuster, and then -u http://localhost. Ooh, I almost forgot. You know what? I forgot. What is the command there? So let's do Feroxbuster -- help. A couple of things I need to do. A, I need to make sure I don't get those crazy wildcard things, or should I leave that in? I'll leave that in for the first one. But one thing I don't want to do is to do recursion. There it is. No recursion. No, right? Do not scan recursion. Not recursion. It's -- what is it? What is it? Depth. Bing. The recursion depth. I guess I can do no recursion. I guess that works as well. I didn't realize there was a no recursion. I usually just do -d1. And that's what's up. All right, let's do it. Date and Feroxbuster. I just do -d1 so that it only goes to a single depth. And then from there, I'll do -u http localhost on port 3000. And then I think we're good. No, yeah, -word list. That's right. Use the same word list, Daniel. Share /word lists derb /small. That all looks good. Call date at the end. Run it. Off it goes. All right, so these are the two commands that I have run. There will be one minor exception that I actually did in the scientific, air quotes, scientific study, trying to make it, is that you'll notice here, so remember we got the wildcard issue back before. I say wildcard, the non-existent URL thing. And it said use wildcard or key on lengths or, remove the status code of 200. Well, you'll notice that right here, WLD 301 got 200 for this URL. Wildcard response is static. It's auto filtering, right? So it kind of automatically did that stuff for me. I didn't have to tell it. But this does give us the output, and then it ran. We can see, how long did that actually take? It looks like 10 to 20. It took 10 seconds. And I won't look back because it's a lot of scrolling. So it took about 10 seconds. Well, I'll tell you who is actually faster momentarily. So stay tuned here. Now we got much more interesting looking output. So let's start there at the aesthetic. For me, man, Feroxbuster's got it down, because look at this. Look how beautiful this is. It's just pretty. I'm sorry, right? Cue Bruno Mars, right? Kiss myself. I'm so pretty, right? And that's what's going on here. We've got target URL, tells us where we're going, how many threads we're running, the word list that we ran, the status codes that we're keying on, the timeout in seconds, the user agent that's being used, the config file and where that's located, recursion depth, and if there is a new version available, right? And then you get this lovely coloration. So I can see 500s are red, 301s are amber, 200s are green. We also saw that up here where 200 and 204 are green, letting me know that like green is good. You got an okay on that. Amber's probably like, well, some other things happened. You might want to check that. And then the reds are, that probably didn't work, which are client server errors. You know, we got the 4s and the 500s. So that's really cool. I like that. This output is just amazing. Where if we rerun our Gobuster, we can then see that we do get some nice output, right? Not too crazy. Then we got URL, right? It doesn't say target URL, it just says URL. Maybe that's not as pretty as I'd like it to be. It does tell us the method, how many threads we're running, what word list we're running. And then we have negative status codes, so the stuff that it's kind of saying, don't give me 404s. I don't want to see 404s, which is, I think, the default also of Feroxbuster. But we also have excluded length, the user agent. So some very similar output, but it's fine, but it's not as pretty. I'm sorry. It's just not as pretty, right? Maybe refactor Gobuster in the next iteration. Make it as pretty. Do some beautifying. Does that mean it's better or worse? Nah, it's just I like it. Just saying. So for me, that was a check mark, the aesthetic. Another big check mark for Feroxbuster was the fact that it has a default word list. And of course, it'll tell you where that is if you just run Feroxbuster without, defining what word list you want it to use. It is also able to recursively scan. It's able to go down. So if I find something like /API, by default, it'll go, well, what's in /API? And it will rescan going through /API. And if it finds another thing, it will scan that. And again, doing it recursively to the default depth of 4. And I can also shut that off. As we saw, I have the option of saying, go recursion or don't. Gobuster does not. So Feroxbuster, you get the check mark for me for recursion as well. Now, that leaves us to, I'm getting notifications, but that doesn't matter. What we care about right now, who was faster? Who was the speeder of them all? All right, drum roll, please. Feroxbuster averaged for the small run of the derb small.txt file an average of 9 seconds, which I think we saw that momentarily ago. Maybe it was 10. But I ran 3 separate scans, making sure to restart the application, clear out my cache. Everything should be as close to pristine as possible, so nothing could be affecting the scan. And I got an average of 9 seconds. For Gobuster, for the same thing, doing the exact same process. I even waited the exact same amount of time before rerunning the scans, before restarting the application, the whole 9 yards. An average of 7 seconds. I mean, it was consistently, everything ran 7 seconds. It ran 7 seconds, 7 seconds, 7 seconds, where I got like 9 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds. And that was the 3 different scans I got for Feroxbuster. So Gobuster edges it out on speed just a little bit. So it is a bit faster. So you maybe want to use, and you can tune and tweak, obviously, and get the same kind of results with a little bit more speed. But for me, Feroxbuster was just a little bit more friendly. It was a little more user friendly And sometimes speed is not that important. You know, depends on how big I think this is going to run. Now, on a large application, well, guess what? Speed might be king. And you might want to stick with Gobuster if you need a little bit more, what's the word on low? A little more throttle, right? A little more horsepower. You need to go a bit faster. Gobuster might be your thing. I think at the end of the day, for most of the applications that I'm scanning and working with, I can spare a few seconds, maybe even a few minutes to get along with a nicer, more friendlier, working with, doing things for me, trying to help me out. So maybe just Feroxbuster is a bit more newbie friendly. And if you're looking for just speed again, you might want to go with Gobuster. But there you go. There's my take. I'd love to hear what busters you use, what tweaks that you do to either Gobuster or Feroxbuster or whatever it is that you use. Please comment down below if you liked what you saw. Like, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. Find those things, give them a tag. And yeah, I like to interact, me and you out there. That's what we got for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you like what you saw, you know what to do. And don't forget, I also have a weekly CTI series. You should check that out. Bing, right there. It's going to be a link to the playlist. Until next time, ladies and gents, thanks for watching and keep hacking.